Okay, he is a spiritual man. He is an ethical man. He is exactly what we need in the United States Congress. So I'd like to introduce Pastor Stephen Broden.
I'm 39. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Your being here tonight is an encouragement to me, and I'm sure you're encouraging one another. We recognize that there is a sinister movement afoot in our nation, and it's one that's causing many of us to be engaged and activated today. You're here today because you have an uneasiness of what's going on in Washington, D.C. What's happening in Washington, D.C., to be frank and blunt, is a deliberate attempt on the part of the progressive movement in America to forever change us into a socialistic paradigm. And I think that's what's causing us to be uncomfortable. That's what's got us up and engaged. And I think that's a positive thing. I know for many of us, we're frustrated with some of the defeats that we've experienced over the last few months, the passing of the health care and other regulatory imposing policies that have come down the pipeline through this administration. And it's making us uncomfortable. We feel like, gee whiz, it's nothing that we're doing that seems to make a difference. But I want you to know that this is the best of times and the worst of times. I think it was Dickens that said that. The worst of times in that we're seeing our leadership in America abdicate their responsibility to protect and to defend the Constitution of this great land. And second of all, it is the best of time in that what they're doing has galvanized us into action. It's caused us to recognize that sitting on the sideline is not an option for us anymore. To be at home worried about our 401ks, or can we go fishing today, or who's winning the football game, or how good the Rangers are doing, and all of that is important, I think, to some extent, but not to the degree that we are facing a threat to our very existence as a nation. And so your being involved is a positive indication that there is this possibility that we can turn this thing around. I happen to believe that we are at a place where we must seize this moment. It's a special moment in our nation's history. I think we're at a crossroads. It can go either left or right. Left into socialism, or right back into the founding principles that made this nation great. But the moment must be seized. We must take advantage of the opportunity that is before us, and I believe it is indeed an opportunity. But let me say this very quickly. One of the things that we must understand is that we must see this thing from a positive vantage point. We cannot be negative here. And believe it or not, as I move throughout the district and I talk with people, there's a lot of negative vibe out there. People wondering if there's anything that we can do. It seems like it's all over, and most people aren't responding. Well, Samuel Adams tells us something. He says, it doesn't take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate minority keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men. A minority. Men and women, what we are experiencing right now in America with this liberal move to the left, this Fabian socialistic attempt to try to change us forever, is something that is not happening by the majority, but by a minority. It is an elite few who believe that they know what is best for us, and that they are moving this nation rapidly at a breathtaking pace away from the founding principles that made this nation great. But I do believe this, as we are engaged, that our engagement has to be specific, and it has to be targeted, it has to be focused. We got to know why it is that we are engaged and what it is that we're up against, in order for our actions and activity to produce the results that are going to be favorable for this nation and for our children and our grandchildren to come. How we move today and what we do between now and November will ultimately determine whether we succeed or not in the first phase of our action and activity. And I believe it's just the first phase. I believe liberty has to be fought for every day. I believe we have to be ever vigilant and careful stewards of the freedoms that have been handed down to us by our founding fathers. we have abdicated that responsibility and we have negated it in a miserable way. We're in the place that we are in today because we have sort of relaxed with these freedoms, and we've given over our stewardship responsibility to others and begin to enjoy the fat of the land. We moved into the land that floweth with milk and honey, and we embrace the doctrines of the world. And as a result of it, we're about to lose this republic. However, I must say to you, it is the best of times in that we still have in place a document called the Constitution of this great land. And it will be that Constitution that will hold back and stay the hand of the evildoers who are attempting to change us forever. We must live by and enact the principles of the Constitution in order to rescue this republic. So that means you and I must know what the document says and how we can use that document to push back against those who are attempting to forever change us. And so there's a need for us to be informed. Information asks and answers the question, what's going on? Education asks and answers the question, why is this happening to us? And there are reasons behind it. There are answers to those questions, men and women. And you must explore them and know them so that when you begin to move, you move with specificity and you move with intentionality and you will accomplish the task that is before you. Inside the Constitution is the means by which we can push back against tyranny. What we are facing in America today is a tyrannical move on the part of this government to ever increase their role in influencing and dominating our lives. That's what's happening. An ever-expanding government. That is what the Founding Fathers put in place, the Constitution, to restrict and to retard. That is tyranny. Tyranny, as they understood it, was the government. It was King George coming into their lives and dominating their lives, taxing them and making them buy stamps and just forcing his will upon the colonies. So they crafted a document that would push back on that and to protect us from a tyrannical, over-expanding government. We must utilize that Constitution to push back. But what has happened, men and women, is that you and I have become accustomed to tyranny. It's called soft tyranny. Soft tyranny is that the government has come in and begun to do things for us and we've gotten used to it. Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. And it has made us somewhat dependent upon them as opposed to our own innovation and creativity to provide for ourselves. What the Declaration of Independence says is that we have rights. And our rights do not come from government, it comes from God. And if our rights are sourced in God, the government didn't give it to us, and the government can't take it away. So understanding that gives us the vehicle or the means by which we can rescue this republic. And I do believe we're on a rescue mission. There ought to be an intensity in what we're doing here, men and women. This is not a game. This is not a political exercise. We're in a struggle here. And I think it's likened unto what the Founding Fathers were facing that caused them to give up their lives, their fortune, and their sacred honor. That's what we're facing today. And if you don't see it that way, I would ask you to go back and examine it again. Take a look at what's happening and how rapid it is happening. These people are moving with such rapidity and speed to forever change us because they believe they have found the best rhythm to make it happen. This thing just didn't happen in this administration, but it's been coming at us for a very long time. It started in the Woodrow Wilson administration. It found a rhythm in FDR and came to full fruition in Lyndon Baines Johnson's Great Society program, where they put into play an over-expanding government, and they exercise it through what I call social engineering inside that black community. Food stamps, welfare program, big daddy government coming into our community and telling us what we could do in order to get housing and what we should do in order to get food stamps and how our families should look. And they said to the women in our community, if you don't have a man in the house, you get all these goodies. And all those goodies became the reason why the family in our community began to break down. That didn't happen until the 1960s in the Great Society program. And I want to submit to you that wasn't by accident, that was by design.